Let's get right into today's explainer, where we're performing a comprehensive legal audit of a real-world tenant-landlord dispute. We're going to uncover exactly what happens when formal lease agreements completely clash with the messy reality of property management. If you've ever rented a home, or if you're just fascinated by contract law, this case study is absolutely packed with incredible insights into tenant rights, safety codes, and contractual breaches.
Okay, so let's dive into the specifics of this case. It centers around a residential lease for the upper floor of a property at 131 Amblefield Avenue, NW, up in Calgary. The property is managed by Preferred Property Management, and what starts out as a totally standard rental agreement quickly spirals into a really fascinating legal battle over safety, utility costs, and broken promises.
Here's our roadmap for today. 1. The Amblefield lease dispute. 2. Security deposit legalities explained. 3. Habitability and property condition. 4. The missing deck breach. 5. Utility compensation analyzed. And 6. The tenant's legal leverage.
Section 1. The Amblefield lease dispute. The baseline contract. First things first, we have to establish the legal baseline to determine exactly what was signed by the tenants and the property management company.
From a legal expert's viewpoint, the specifics are absolutely crucial here. The tenant signed a fixed-term lease running from October 2025 to May 2026, and they agreed to pay a premium monthly rent of $2,350. Now, importantly, the lease explicitly outlines that this agreement is for the upper floor only and that the basement is not included. Paying a premium price sets a really high expectation for habitability and the exclusive, uninterrupted use of the rented space. But as you'll see, that expectation was severely compromised.
Section 2, Security Deposit Legalities Explained. Strict deadlines. Because the financial stakes are so high in this dispute, we really need to understand the strict legal boundaries regarding the tenant security deposit under the Alberta Residential Tenancies Act.
This brilliantly illustrates the rigid timeline the landlord is bound by. Under Alberta law, from day zero, the exact day the tenant surrenders possession, the clock starts ticking. The landlord has a maximum of just 10 days to either return the deposit or provide an estimated statement of account for any deductions. After that, they have an absolute maximum of 30 days to deliver the final statement. If a landlord fails to adhere strictly to this timeline, they actually forfeit their right to withhold those funds.
Section 3. Habitability and property condition. Expectation versus reality. Now that we've got the legal and financial foundation down, let's assess if the landlord violated lease clauses regarding the actual condition of the property.
The contrast here is staggering. The tenants entered this agreement expecting a completed, habitable home. The expectation was a nice house with a front grass yard and an open, accessible backyard. But the reality? They were essentially forced to live in a perpetual dirt construction zone for 2 full years. They didn't even get grass in the front until November, and the backyard was basically a massive mud pit that they had to manually flatten with gravel just so they could park a car. This is a massive gap between the legal promise of the lease and their daily reality.
Section 4. The missing deck breach. A dangerous bait and switch. The landscaping was really just the beginning. Let's move to the most glaring physical breach of this entire lease, which is the missing back deck.
Evaluating this from a legal perspective, we have to look back at the original rental advertisement. It explicitly promised, and I quote, "move in with a back deck." However, the reality was a catastrophic 7-foot drop straight down from the back door. Not only is this a blatant bait and switch from the original ad, but it also means the back door literally cannot be used as an emergency exit. That constitutes a severe violation of Calgary building and fire codes.
So the really interesting part is how the landlord tried to shield themselves legally. In the lease agreement, they inserted Clause 19, stating that exterior work will be done according to the builder's schedule. This was a deliberate legal loophole. By keeping the timeline super vague, the landlord attempted to dodge any hard deadlines, basically excusing the fact that for 24 months, the exterior amenities, including that vital safety deck, were simply abandoned. But here's the thing, a vague schedule doesn't absolve a landlord of their legal duty to maintain a habitable, safe property. Standard habitability laws will always override builder schedules when safety is on the line.
Now, check out this smoking gun written right into the contract. When it came time to sign the second-year lease, the landlord literally wrote the phrase, "stop asking about the deck and stuff," directly into the agreement. From a legal standpoint, this is a massive, massive blunder.
And here is exactly why that matters so much. Under the Alberta Residential Tenancies Act, A landlord cannot just write a clause that waives your legal rights or ignores safety hazards. By explicitly writing, "Stop asking about the deck" into the lease, the landlord provided written admission that they knew about the 7-foot drop hazard and willfully tried to bully the tenants into silence. This renders that specific clause legally void and pretty much proves bad faith on the landlord's part.
Section 5. Utility compensation analyzed. Financial exploitation. The breaches in this case don't just stop at physical safety hazards. We also need to audit the financial exploitation regarding the property's utilities.
The lease actually contained a clause stating that if the basement is under construction, the upper floor tenants would receive a 20% compensation on utilities. But when we analyze how this was actually applied, it was a complete failure. The promised 20% discount never materialized, meaning the upstairs tenants absorbed 100% of the financial burden for the entire house.
Let's look at exactly what that 100% burden entailed, because this wasn't just a missed discount on a normal everyday bill. The landlord was literally siphoning electricity for 6 months to power a basement renovation. They left the basement furnace blasting on high with the windows wide open so contractors could easily move materials in and out, and they left it like that over the weekends during a freezing Calgary winter. To make matters even worse, when a downstairs tenant finally moved in, they were told their utilities were included. That means the upstairs tenants were unwittingly subsidizing the landlord's brand new rental unit straight out of their own pockets.
Section 6. The tenant's legal leverage. Building the case. When we compile all these egregious breaches, the tenants aren't just victims here. They are left with immense legal leverage to dictate an exit on their own terms.
Stacking up these violations paints an incredibly clear picture for any tenancy board. You've got a severe fire and safety code hazard with a 7-foot drop. You've got void lease clauses demonstrating written bad faith. You have documented utility theft during a winter construction project, and you have a fundamental breach of material contract, forcing tenants who were paying premium rent to live in a mud pit construction zone for 2 years.
Because of all this evidence, the tenants have 3 massive legal pressure points they can pull. First, calling Calgary 311 to report the building code violation, which would force a city remedial order. Second, reporting the basement to Alberta Health Services, which could shut down the landlord's potentially unpermitted secondary suite entirely. And third, filing a lawsuit with the Residential Tenancy Dispute Resolution Service for 24 months of retroactive rent abatement. That could force the landlord to pay back thousands of dollars.
Understanding the sheer power of this leverage completely changes the game. The tenants are perfectly positioned to offer a settlement. They can propose walking away cleanly without triggering any of those devastating legal actions in exchange for 2 months of free rent. This strategy provides them the exact financial breathing room they need to transition to a new, safe home without facing any penalties.
This entire case brilliantly illustrates exactly why you must thoroughly audit your tenancy agreements, match them against your daily reality, and really understand your local tenancy laws. It leaves us with a very important question to consider regarding our own contracts. If your landlord slipped an illegal clause into your lease, would you even know? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep your eyes peeled on those contracts.